All right, so today's topic is going to be how disposable you are in the workplace. And for some reason, these really resonate with people out there in the community because we're all afraid of losing our jobs. Let's just put it this way, and this is the analogy I always give people. Human beings are like goldfish. As long as we're in the bowl with water and someone feeds us occasionally, we're going to be all right. But when someone knocks over the bowl, and suddenly you're out of the water and you're gasping for air. That's what losing your job is like. You can only survive outside of the bowl for so long before the lights go out permanently. And with that sort of relationship with something so heinous, and the worst part is that we hate being inside of the wage cage. More than anything in the world, we dislike going to work. No one that I know has ever woken up in the morning and said, "Wow, it's such a great day to go to work. I'm so looking forward to seeing my boss and my coworkers." We just don't say things like that. We always pretend that it's not so bad until you get your paycheck or you're getting fired or you have to deal with coworkers you can't stand. Sometimes Gen Z just drives me up a wall and there's nothing I can do. There's no escaping. I can't just leave the bowl and think I'm going to be okay because you're not going to be okay. If you're like me and you're poor and that's the reason you're here, you have to stay inside of that cage. It's just not humanly possible to survive without an infusion of income every 2 weeks because that's what we need. And it's unfortunate because that means that we're going to spend the vast majority of the best years of our life trapped in a place that we would rather not be. It's no different than being trapped inside of a machine that tortures you all day by attaching electrodes to your nuts and zapping you constantly for 8 hours. You can choose to ignore it, but unfortunately, it's still going to be there. And every time they turn the battery on, you're going to scream bloody murder because that's what we do as human beings. We don't like working. It's bad for our mental health, it's bad for our finances, it's bad for our lives. Working sucks. And the worst part is that while you're in the fishbowl, you're not treated as a human being. You're treated as something to be flushed down the toilet. So once your job realizes that you're not interested in working hard and that you have no loyalty to the corporation whatsoever, they're going to flush you faster than you can even realize what's happening to you because that's what's happened to me at every job I've ever had. So, the loyalty illusion. So, some of you, maybe the younger people that are here, haven't had the experience of being rejected by a job enough times to realize that it's not a big deal. Everyone gets fired. It's just a matter of time. Every time you start a job, there's an expiration date on your forehead. And it's only a matter of time before you get to that date. It's like traveling somewhere, right? You get in the car and you know it's going to take, you look at your GPS and it says it's going to take about this long. I never believe it's lies, but it's there. And usually it's pretty damn good about how long it's going to take to get anywhere. Because every morning when I get in the car to go to Evil Corp, my car says it's going to take me 7 minutes to get there. Roughly, depending on traffic, it's usually right. But the coming back to the illusion of getting used to work, companies demand loyalty from employees but show none in return. And this is more than just getting fired. This is about the meaningless, pointless, repetitive tasks that we have to do all day in order to get a Scooby snack. And so we sit there and we type on our computers, we look at the screen, we take phone calls. Whatever your job has you doing, there isn't much thought there. You get it done, or else someone asks why you're not getting your work done. It's kind of what happens in the workplace. It's what we do. And unfortunately, we can only work until that level that we're functional in a particular job. But the loyalty from your employer is minimal, right? Well, I was doing research for this topic, there's a section where it created the script where it talked about, should we invest in our current employees or should we fire them all and find someone that can already do the thing that we needed them to do? It is the most logical thing in any corporation that if someone that you have working for you is not able to do something extra, you just fire them and hire someone cheaper. That's the beautiful thing about corporate America is that they're always looking to do things cheaper. I mean, recently, like it is in the last 10 days, my current Evil Corp decided to outsource a large portion of the work to a call center in India, much to the dismay of the end users who now have to talk to someone that doesn't really speak English very well about their complicated computer problems. You thought it was difficult to deal with American tech support. Now imagine being sent to those people. Like every time I have to call Dell, I just call them the script readers. You have to talk to that guy who tells you his name is Bob. That's the worst part. Bob will get you on the phone, ask you how you're doing, be as nice as he can, but when it comes down to overall being helpful, they're not helpful. But guess what they are? They're cheap. And in a world in which you're not treated as a human being and you're seen as a completely disposable asset, I I feel like more of us are coming to the conclusion that work sucks. But it's even worse than just sucking. It's like it takes away part of us. Like when I get home from work, I don't think about anything other than trying to distance myself from work as much as humanly possible. Like I know work is going to start up at 8 o'clock in the morning the next day, but I just wish that I could just turn off my brain and not have to think about work. Like truly not think about work. Like right now, I'm thinking about, let's see, I have to go work out in 20 minutes, then I'm going to come home, shower. Then I'm meeting someone at 10 o'clock for a yoga class. Then after that, we're going to the salon. After that, we're going out to eat. And after that, I'm taking her to the airport. That's my day in a nutshell. After that, I will become extremely intoxicated yet again and wander around my house like a drunken idiot and then pass out. Does that sound like a life to you? Does that sound like a person that has loyalty to any employer? No. And that's the vast majority of human beings. It's like we get home and the one thing that we need to do is escape. And we physically can't escape, so we mentally have to escape. And but in that escaping process, there's a certain amount of futility in it because you can't truly escape from work. It's just, I don't know what it is. And lately for me, it's gotten much harder to escape from work at night. Like I have had to start doing more and more in order to try to get some of myself back, if that makes any sense. Like the corporation has taken so much since I came back from the holidays to work. Work has ramped up to a point in which I just I can't handle it some days. Like yesterday, I got out of the morning meeting and then I had three phone calls simultaneously hit my phone as soon as that meeting was over. And I'm dealing with complicated issues and things I don't want to do. I've got Gen Z tugging on my shirt because he doesn't know how to do something. And it's just so many stupid things. And the last thing I want to do is feel like it matters because work doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the loyalty that you have to the corporation is no different than the loyalty you have to a vending machine that pushes out uh, life pellets. And you need a life pellet every single day in order to continue living because we're we're living in a point in human society in which we just can't do it. You know, we have this symbiotic relationship with the corporations because where else are you going to work? It's not like you can go work at a mom and pop store. It's not like you can work for your parents. You can't obviously you don't if you don't know anything about business or don't have any money to start your own business, you can't do that. So we're stuck. All right, talking point number two. Decisions about your job are based on cost benefit analysis, not your value as a human being. So, in the last couple months, we got new management at my Evil Corp, and they have been doing a cost benefit analysis of every single employee. And there are hundreds of people who are not here anymore because of that analysis. They decided on who was worth keeping and who was not. Somehow I'm still around. I don't understand how, but as a human being, I don't consider myself as having much value. I mean, I don't have much value to Evil Corp. I don't have much value to society. Obviously, I'm a loser, or else I wouldn't be here talking to the internet by myself on a Saturday morning with nothing to do because I ran out of clothes yesterday. I put off doing my laundry for so long that I had to reuse dirty clothes yesterday because I just didn't want to do it. And it wasn't so much that I didn't want to do it, it's just an inconvenience. It's like looking for another job. I've been doing it for months now, but it just doesn't seem like it's working. And you guys are telling me the same thing in the comments every day is that you're looking for another job, but you're finding very little out there. And as a person who's stared at the screen on Indeed looking for various jobs for many, many years, I feel like I've been looking for work since I started working as a teenager. Like, no job has seemed legitimately worth it, or any job hasn't had sufficient, how do I put this, interest to me. Because the kind of jobs that I've always had to do are boring. Just probably the same way that you feel about your job. And when you have a boring, mundane job and you know that you're just loser number 001 on a list, on a spreadsheet, that can easily be gone tomorrow, be gone today. I mean, I could get a message right now from the corporation telling me not to bother to come in on Monday. And because I know that, I don't keep anything in the office. If my boss were to come in Monday morning and say, Millennial Stim, you don't work here anymore, I'd be like, great. The loyalty isn't there. And corporations really don't like it. When they treat you as disposable, it's okay. But when you treat them as disposable, oh man, it really, really bothers them. And I know this for a fact because when I used to work at Walmart, the general manager of the store would say this nearly every day. I don't want anyone working here that doesn't want to be here. Can you imagine saying that to the American public? Anyone who doesn't want to be at work doesn't have to be. You don't have to work anymore. Suddenly, business would come to an end. And it is amazing to believe this fact, but what did we see during the pandemic? If people didn't have to work, they didn't work. And so you had a person like me who had been making $300 or less per week for years. And suddenly you got to go outside. You got to enjoy your life. And you were getting universal basic income. And suddenly you got to open your eyes. This is, I think, the first time in my entire life in which I wasn't worried about losing my job or thinking about work. I just could be. It was the time in which I got to take up photography, drawing. I just got to, I started mountain biking again. I started fishing. Like, suddenly I could live my best life without having the corporation wondering why I'm not working harder every single day. It felt like such a strange time, but it also showed many Americans how truly disposable the people that couldn't stop, right? The people that were listed as essential and therefore were disposed of. It was a true eye opener to those members of society that had absolutely no value. The loyalty from society to those people was absolutely none. So, talking point number 3, the replaceability myth. Companies treat workers as if they're completely disposable, using them in endless cycles of overwork, burnout, and underappreciation. This is something that I've noticed from the senior manager way before he even became the senior manager. Before he got promoted, He was starting to lose his his appreciation for the corporation. And I've seen that as he now comes into meetings, does as little work as humanly possible. He's given up. And I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but he just doesn't care anymore. And it must be the same between him and his boss because we now have the same boss. Um, and and getting things done, like you can just see. I've never met this person in real life, but his overall energy, his loyalty, his burnout is just so out there. And I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't make it another 6 months. Like this guy's been pushing himself for what, nearly 20 years, worked his way up from the very, very, very bottom rung. And he's gotten to a place where he doesn't feel appreciated and he no longer appreciates work. That's really what it comes down to. Is you get to a point with workers where they realize that they're so disposable that they don't even appreciate work. And this is something rich people say all the time, right? Regular work is a privilege and not a right. Well, I don't buy that because no one likes working. We all dislike being slaves. And if anyone ever comes up to me and says, "Oh man, I love my job and I love this company," I just look at them and I say to them, you don't have to lie to me. I'm not your boss. I don't care what you think. It doesn't matter. But some people truly feel like they need to come to work and put on that facade every single day. Gen Z's that way, even though he's become more and more depressed at work. Like yesterday, when we were leaving Evil Corp, he was just like, "Man, I hope you have an amazing weekend." And I'm like, "Gen Z, you and I both know that we're going to go home and we're going to sit at home. Chances are we're going to get on the hub for a little while and then we're just going to sit there in a depressive state until we have to come back to work. Whether or not he shows up next week, who knows?" I can tell that he's been looking for another job since he started, right? As soon as he showed up at this job to realize that the turnover was 150%, I was like, "So what do you think of this place?" And he's like, "I don't like this place." And I'm like, let's put it this way, this place doesn't like you either. It doesn't like any worker. And that's what amazes me is that you can have all the loyalty towards an institution or a pointless job from your end, but the corporation will never like you back. It's just impossible for the corporation to like its workers because if it liked its workers, it would pay them, it would offer better benefits, it would actually be concerned about what it's doing to the mental health of its employees. No, it doesn't care. It just acts as a machine being run by billionaires that extracts labor from the general population and turns it into cash. And not cash for the people that are being exploited, but cash just for the 1%. Everyone else just gets a middle finger. Or if it gets worse for you, you might even get a fist where the sun doesn't shine. That's just the way business works. So, in my last talking point, with a minute and a half left, the artificial delusions keeping the machine running. Concepts like hope, promotions, loyalty are sold as incentives to keep you working, but are often illusions designed to prevent you from questioning the system. Once you see through it, the entire structure starts to crumble. If you haven't been able to see through the system yet because you're too young, imagine yourself 50 years in the future. You're old, you don't have any money for retirement, and the machine has used you up, and it's time to go into the Pine Box retirement community. And you spent your whole life working, but you own nothing. You're alone, and you have no money. That's where we're all heading as the proletariat. There is no happy ending per se for the proletariat. We're all going to end up getting used, our rears stretched out so far that you could drive a dump truck through it, and then it's just going to come to an end. And if you see it that way, if you see the way that things are going to end up for you, it's hard to believe in a system that's this cruel. But it is. And it was always this cruel. You could tell yourself that, things are going to get better because I see that every day. But the reality is, most of us are going to end up face down in a mud puddle while society walks over us.